The sky wept with wind. The dusk fell heavy over the primeval forest, where the shadows grew before the stars could be born. Between the massive trunks of ancient trees, the tribe moved like ghosts barefoot, cautious, silent. Their faces were painted with earth and ash. Their eyes shimmered like obsidian, fearful of what lurked beyond the reach of their fire. They were not many, just 13, and among them one did not belong. He was smaller, thinner, and slower. His body bore the marks of solitude, unhealed, bruises unnoticed, and a look in his eyes that searched for something beyond meat and shelter. He was the one they called the Hollow One, though he once had another name, now forgotten. And so began the night of the first rejection. Forest exhaled the scent of damp leaves and rotting wood. Far away, a howl broke the stillness. Wolves, but they were not the only predators. Eyes watched the tribe from behind curtains of foliage, predators who did not fear fire or man. The fire crackled in the center of their camp. It was small, insufficient. The cold gnawed at their bones, but they hoarded the wood, fearing discovery more than frostbite. The elders huddled near the flames. The young hunter sharpened flint blades and whispered of omens. And the first human, though he did not yet know he was the first, sat alone. He watched the others eat meat from a recent kill, shared unequally. He was given bones. He cracked them for marrow and silence, chewing with eyes fixed on the flames. No one spoke to him, no one met his gaze. He remembered when he was one of them, before the sickness took his mother, before the scar on his leg made him slower, before the whispers said he brought bad luck. A gust of wind hissed through the trees. The flames danced wildly, shadows twisted, and then a scent, wet fur, blood. The tribe fell silent. From the darkness beyond, eyes blinked open. A low growl rumbled. A great cat, black as night, stepped into the firelight. No one moved. The air turned solid. The beast sniffed, then lowered its head, not in fear, but in confusion. It was not hunting. It was watching. And among the tribe, only one soul looked back at the predator without trembling. The first human. He saw something. A flicker of recognition, not threat. A lesson. And in that moment the wind carried a new whisper. To survive, watch the ones who are never hungry. The great cat vanished into the dark, silent as a shadow. The tribe began to breathe again, but their glances at the Hollow One grew colder. They feared him more now. They had seen the look he gave the predator, and the look returned. That night, while the others slept, he sat awake, staring into the woods. Waiting. Listening. The first seed of something unspoken had taken root. But tomorrow would bring the first blow, the first scar, the first exile, and so began. The night of becoming. The frost came before the sun. It crept over the ground like a silent death, blanketing leaves in a brittle silver crust. The tribe awoke to cold breath and aching joints, their fire reduced to ash and memory. Hunger returned with the morning. It always did, but today it would not be shared. The first human rose from where he had slept, near the outer ring of the camp, where the smoke reached thickest and the cold bit hardest. His hands were numb, his belly hollow. He approached the others as they circled the gutted remains of a wild boar, caught by a trap he had helped build. No one looked up. He waited. He stepped closer. Then the voice of Grak, the strongest hunter, cut the air like stone through bone. You eat last, if anything is left. The words were followed by silence. No one objected, not even the elders. The first human said nothing. He turned away, but not before seeing the eyes of the children, curious, unsure, learning cruelty through mimicry. One of them giggled. Another threw a pebble at his back. It struck his spine and fell. He didn't flinch, but inside, something broke. He walked into the trees, past the boundaries of their invisible walls, past the scent-marked territories of the tribe. His thoughts were not of revenge, not yet, but of questions. Why had the beast from the night before not attacked? Why did it study them? And why, when all of them froze, did it look at him? Deeper into the forest he wandered, barefoot over stones, branches, and thorns. Blood marked his path, but he did not stop. He needed answers, not found in fire or flint. Hours passed. Hunger sharpened every sense. His ears caught the flutter of wings, the rustle of leaves, the crack of antlers in the distance. His breath was ragged, and yet he pressed on. Then a sound, a low, guttural snarl. Not far ahead, between the roots of a fallen tree, he saw them. Predators, 3 of them. Not cats, this time hyenas. Lean, scarred, eyes like madness and hunger. They circled a wounded elk, its side torn, legs twitching in dying spasms. The hyenas laughed, a chorus of wild, bone-deep cackles that echoed through the trees. And he watched, not as prey, not as man, but as student. He saw how they circled, how one baited while the others waited. He saw the method in their madness, the patience in their savagery, and then, when the elk finally ceased to struggle, they fed not chaotically but by unspoken order. The first human stomach churned. His hand went to his side, where a sharpened stone rested in a sling of bark fiber. He would not steal, he would learn. He followed them as far as he dared, memorizing their pace, their pauses, the way they read the wind, how they sniffed the earth before moving on, how they left no trail, only whispers. By nightfall, he returned to the edge of the camp. The tribe was silent, full-bellied, surrounded by fairer GHT. He approached. But this time, Grak stood. His voice rose like thunder. "You do not belong here." The others turned. Grak approached, towering over him. His breath smelled of fat and dominance. In his hand, a sharpened bone decorated with red paint and feathers, a symbol of authority. He raised it. The first human did not flinch. The bone struck his cheek. Blood flowed, but he remained standing. Grak struck again and again, until the boy fell. He did not cry, only stared, not at the fire, not at the tribe, but into the dark forest behind them, and, as the tribe turned away, indifferent to his collapse, he whispered to the earth, "I will learn what you fear." That night he left alone, but not afraid, for he was no longer one of them, and the wild had begun to speak. He walked without direction. The stars, unblinking and cruel, watched him from above. The trees whispered with wind and frost. Every step, deeper into the untamed night, was a challenge, every breath a gamble. But he did not look back. The first human was no longer a boy of the tribe. He was not even a name. He was hunger. He was exile. And soon, he would be something else entirely. For 3 days, the forest tested him. The cold was a living thing. It clawed at his bones, tightened his skin, and whispered promises of sleepy, painless, quiet. But he refused. His body was weakening, but his mind burned with something stronger than fire. Purpose. He scavenged what he could, roots with bitter cores, beetles hiding under stones, water that tasted of iron and rot. Every taste was a lesson, every mistake, a scar. On the second night, he stumbled upon the remains of a hunt, bones stripped clean, fur scattered like fallen leaves. The scent was fresh, a kill made by creatures who knew the land far better than he did. Predators. He did not flee. He studied. Their marks were deep and deliberate, the bones cracked in patterns, the entrails discarded, uneaten. He remembered how the hyenas had done the same. He remembered how the great cat had moved without sound. He realized they hunted with intention, not just instinct. And so he began to mimic. He crafted traps from roots and fallen branches, but they failed. He threw stones at birds, but missed. He chased a hare until his legs gave out, and collapsed into the snow. Failure met him at every turn. And then came the storm, a wind that howled like spirits in pain. The trees bent, the snow fell sideways. His shelter, hollow beneath a leaning pine, collapsed. Ice cut his skin. His hands bled. His firewood turned to ice. He screamed into the wind, not in fear but in defiance. And then, as if summoned by that primal cry, came the one he had seen before, the great black cat. It appeared on the edge of the storm, barely visible, its eyes twin flames in the chaos. It did not approach, it simply watched. Then, slowly, turned and walked into the white abyss. He followed. For hours he stumbled after the cat, never close, never too far. It did not lead, it merely moved, and he chose to follow. Finally, it vanished over a ridge. And below, in the valley's throat, he saw it, a predator's den, a shallow cave, bones littering the entrance. The scent of blood, fur, and heat. Within, not the cat but a pack of wolves, coiled together for warmth, their breathing steady and deep. He dared not enter. But near the edge, beneath a low stone, he saw a small corpse, a half-eaten deer fawn. Discarded and frozen, he took it, with numb hands and broken breath. He dragged the body back up the ridge, found a hollow between 2 stones, and for the first time in days he ate. Raw, cold, wild, but it filled the hole inside him. And that night, beneath a canopy of snow and stars, he dreamt, not of fire or safety, but of Fang's eyes and movement in the dark. He would no longer chase prey like a man. He would learn to think, like the hunter. Dawn rose as a wisp, slow and without warmth. The forest did not greet the sun. It tolerated it. The snow had eased, but the cold remained. The first human emerged from his hollow shelter, bones aching, lips cracked, and hands swollen. Yet in his eyes burned anew clarity. He had not only survived the storm, he had watched it live inside the den of predators, beside the breath of death, and now something inside him had changed. That morning, the crows led him. He followed their black shadows through the forest, their caws echoing like warnings or invitations. They led him to another kill, a stag, its throat torn, the snow-soaked red. A fresh hunt, abandoned too soon. Saw the marks, not wolves, not hyenas. The cat, the same one that had watched him, again and again. But this time, something was different. The kill had not been eaten fully. The liver was untouched, the lungs intact. The cat had fed only on the heart and left. Not from waste, but from choice. What does it know that I don't? He wondered. He sat beside the carcass and watched how the crows circled. He noticed the smell of the meat, the still warm steam rising. He touched the body, and through the flesh, felt its final moments. Terror, struggle, silence. Hunting wasn't rage. It was rhythm, a pattern, a ritual. And he, the outcast, the hollow one, would now begin his own. He spent the next days observing more than surviving. He followed wolf trails. He mimicked the posture of stalking cats. He learned to move with the wind, not against it. He touched every tree, listened to the calls of birds, watched where the squirrels vanished before danger, and then he saw it. Not a beast, not a predator, but a shape of fire, a streak of orange, flickering in the trees. A sudden gust of wind had carried lightning into the forest. A tree had fallen. Fire clung to its broken limbs, burning slow, curling the air with heat and smoke. He approached it as if approaching a god. The warmth licked his face, unfamiliar, and alive. The fire cracked, spat, and breathed. It was not a tool, it was a creature. He remembered the tribe's fire, always tamed, always feared. But this was wild. He touched a burning branch. Pain, he cried out, dropped it, and watched it smolder in the snow. But something inside him did not retreat. He took a second branch, held it longer. Pain again, but less fear. He wrapped bark around his hands, tried again. This time, he carried it, carried fire, carried power. He returned to his shelter, placed the branch between stones, fed it dry grass, and breathed out slow, careful, patient, and then flames. He had not stolen fire. He had earned it. The predators had taught him to stalk. The storm had taught him to endure. The wilderness had taught him to observe. But this was different. Was discovery. Fire was not just warmth. It was weapon. It was signal. It was the sun in his hands. And as the flames danced before him, casting long shadows on the stone, he saw in them a vision, a lone figure standing in the dark, not afraid, not cold, not hunted, a man not like the others, but something new, something first. The fire grew, night after night. He fed it twigs, bark, bones, leaves. He learned its hunger. He sang to it without words, a rhythm of breath and movement, like the wind through trees or the growl of the waking beast. He was no longer just surviving, he was becoming. But the forest was watching, and the predators were not silent. They smelled the smoke, heard the crackle. Fire belonged to storms, not to flesh, not to prey. And now, prey had stolen a god's breath. The balance had shifted, and balance must be restored. It began with a sound. Wrong, the silence. Before an ambush. The birds did not warn. The wind did not shift, but he felt it. Instinct honed by exile, he rose from his shelter, fire in one hand, stone blade in the other. His eyes scanned the tree line. Then came the eyes. 6 of them, 3 shadows. Wolves, but not from the den he had observed. These were leaner, starving, desperate. Winter had stripped their pack, and now, they hunted alone, together, without rules. They circled him, low. Cautious. Not afraid. He did not run. He could not. He had no tribe to shield him, no trees to hide behind, only the fire. He raised it high. The wolves paused, snarled, then they lunged. The first came from the left, teeth bared, silent. He spun, thrust the flaming branch forward. Fire touched fur. The beast yelped and veered off. The second was already airborne. He fell backward as it landed on him, breath hot, claws scraping his shoulder. His blade hand struck up stone, met throat. Blood sprayed. The wolf shrieked and collapsed beside him. Pain, heat, smoke. The fire rolled away. The third wolf seized the moment. It pounced. Fangs clamped onto his leg. He screamed. The sound echoed through the forest like thunder in a cave. But he didn't stop. He drove his thumb into the wolf's eye. Again and again. It howled, released, stumbled. He grabbed a nearby bone from a discarded kill shop, broken, strong. With all his strength, he drove it into the creature's chest. And then silence. His breath came in gasps. Snow melted beneath his blood. The fire still burned nearby. He crawled to it, and beside the light of that small flame, surrounded by the fallen, the torn, and the bloodied. He howled, a sound no wolf had ever made, a sound no man had ever dared. It was not pain, it was declaration. That night he burned the bodies, not for warmth, but as a message to the forest, to the predators, to the gods. The first human had no pack, but he was no longer prey. He had fire, he had blood, he had the will to stand alone. And now, the world would remember his shape in the dark. The days that followed were quiet but not in peace. It was the silence of respect, of distance, of a new name written not in words, but in scent, in ashes, in tracks burned into the frozen ground. Predators no longer followed him. They avoided him, not out of fear but recognition. Something in him had changed beyond flesh. He was not a beast, not a man, but something else. The first human no longer walked like prey. He moved with patience, with knowledge, with the lessons of wind and fang. He could hear the breath of danger in the rustle of leaves, feel the direction of prey in the twitch of birds' wings. He hunted, not with rage, but with strategy. He set traps that mirrored the hyena's cruelty. He stalked with the silence of the black cat. He used fire not just to warm but to herd, to corner, to kill. He had become the first to learn from the predators, not run from them, and now, with each kill, with each victory, he did not hoard. He left signs, symbols etched in bark, bones arranged in spirals, blood marks across stone, a language not yet born but felt, a legacy. One evening, long after the snow had melted and green returned to the trees, he smelled smoke on the wind, but it was not his. He followed it slowly, cautiously, through hills and valleys he had once crossed in fear, until he found them, the tribe, weaker now, fewer, but alive. They had fire, but it was dim. They had meat, but it was little. They had eyes, but not the kind that saw. They saw him, and they did not speak, not from pride, but shame, for he was no longer the hollow one. He stood taller. His skin bore the memory of storms, beasts, and fire. In his hand a spear tipped with polished bonot stone, in his eyes a calm that came not from comfort, but from knowing. He turned away. He did not need them, but as he vanished into the trees, a child followed, small, wide-eyed, silent. The first human turned, crouched, and extended the spear, not as a gift, but as a test. The child took it, and in that moment, the story of man changed. They say he disappeared into the forgotten lands. They say the beasts still remember his scent. They say his footprints became rivers, his blood, the soil. But more than story, he became the first memory, the first question, the first path. And though his bones were never found, his fire never extinguished, he became what all would follow, and none would surpass.